Hi everyone, it's Heidi from flutterbyheidi.co.uk. I'm Heidi Smith, I'm an independent Stampin' Up demonstrator based in the United Kingdom, and today I'm working with the beautiful Bottled Happiness stamp set. As you can see here, it's fab images with some bottles and floral images that combine together to make this lovely two-step stamp that you can see here. And I've taken this idea from one by Wendy Cranford. And it's a trifold card, which I've done before, but it's added onto a standard card base, just to add a little bit of difference. And you can see here I've actually kept it as a single layer of card. So you've got space on the back, and then you can either display it open like this, or it will kind of stand up. I prefer it because it kind of looks like that. I prefer it flat, but you could easily prop that up and it kind of makes display plan. But I rather like the sort of asymmetric nature of it, and just that repeat image I think is really pretty. And I've also used on here the painted texture embossing folder, which is one that has carried over into the new catalogue. It's this one here. It's a great versatile background that just adds just a nice bit of texture to anything that you're doing. I was going to use my fern embossing folder, being sort of floral, but I've got it on another project and I couldn't find it. It wasn't to hand, so I thought, well, do you know what? You could use whatever embossing folder you'd got to hand to create this. And as I said, on the back here, I've just repeat stamped the image as well. You've got plenty of space to add a note, and this lovely little sweet sending cheer. So I think if somebody was unwell particularly, this would be lovely, but you know, another way of sending a bunch of flowers. So let's start off with some stamping. You're going to need a piece that's 14 by 10 for the reverse, which is what we're going to stamp on. You need a piece that is 7 by 7 cut in half for this panel. And you're going to need a smaller piece that is 6.5 by 6.5 for this one. And then finally, you're going to need a piece that is 8 by 8 for the centre. So those are all the panels that we're going to stamp on. So because it's a photopolymer stamp set, I'm just going to grab my Stampin' Pierce mat to make sure that that it stamps really well. And I'm also going to use a piece of scrap paper because I'm going to be stamping to the side slightly. I'm going to use exactly the same colours that I've used that one, partly because it's just such a pretty combination. So I've got some Blushing Bride ink, and I've got some Smoky Slate for my leaves. And this one's really easy to do. So what I'm going to do is stamp my, on the back here, I'm going to pop my sort of bottle at the bottom there first. Try and get that as straight as possible. I'm going to come in with my flowers, and on the back I just stamped them simply as they were, just with a single colour. And when you come to line it up, what I found the best way to do this is I kind of choose, hopefully you can see, a couple of the centres, one at the top and one to the bottom, to line up. So when I've stamped, I just hover over the top, and I'm kind of going with that top one and this bottom one. And I find if I just concentrate on two and then stamp, that usually gives a reasonably accurate impression. So I'm going to repeat that on my other card pieces now. So on the main one, the difference I'm going to do here, inking it up with Blushing Bride, and then I'm coming in with some polished pink, she says, hopefully, when I can see where I've put it, and a sponge dauber. And what I'm going to do is just sponge daub over those extra flowers. And that is a way of adding a second colour into that stamp. And with this one, I'm going for the flowers first and kind of trying to line up that bottom bit in the middle. And then I can come in with my vase, again in Blushing Bride, just pop that in there. Haven't stamped that actually very straight. Oh well, it's a wonky bottle. And then I'll use my polished pink for the sending cheer. Again, in the leaves, again, just looking at that again. So I'm just again trying to line up in a couple of places. There we go. Pop that to one side. Now this one for the front, what I've done here is I've actually added it diagonally because it's going to swizzle, and otherwise if you sort of try and stamp it straight, it just somehow didn't work. I'm actually going to huff on this just to activate it again. That means just breathe on it and just pop that in diagonally. And as I say, it sort of doesn't look very, often doesn't look very exciting until you actually add the second layer in, and then it sort of somehow just brings it to life. As I say, I tend to try and hover and line up those flower centres you've got there. And then the final bit is just doing the same again. I'm being a little bit naughty because I'm not actually cleaning my stamp off, even though it's had a different colour on it. So I'll just stick with the same colour. Pop my lids on those I'm not using so I don't get it mixed up, because that'll be the next thing that happens. To ink up and just find. So on this one, I've obviously done it upside down. Where are we? There we go. So I'm just going for that top, this top one here, and sort of one of these down here, just to try and help line that up. And so if you can keep them, I find for me, if I can keep them reasonably well spaced apart, the two I'm lining up, it usually works. Okay, so that's our stamping done, and obviously, you know, you could add more or less depending on what you want. So now we can get on with our construction of our card. So let's add some layers to these. So I'm popping this onto a base that's 14.5 by 10.5, and I've actually gone for a darker shade. I've gone for the basic grey on this one. Helps if you take the lid off the seal, doesn't it? And then you can just pop that straight on. Like so. This piece is really easy. Again, it's 14 by 10. Just pop it into your folder. Just make sure it's sort of right in the middle, so you don't want any of those extra lines. And then pop it through. Now, being a thicker folder, this is another one where you just need to make sure that when you pop it through, you put the hinge first, so you don't damage your embossing folder, and also it helps ease it through, and then when you bring it out you've got that fabulous embossed effect. And this is one where it looks equally as good on the front or the reverse, and sometimes I use the reverse and sometimes I use the front. When I'm adding embossed layers, I generally use a wet glue. I find that kind of seems to, because it's got a bit more dimension, it just seems to work that bit better. So pop that on there. And as I say, any embossing folder would work here. It just adds a bit of interest to the overall effect. Then what we need to do is add other cards to the layers. And again, we're adding our glue to our white panels here. It's something that obviously you don't want to add to your coloured panels because they're that bit larger, because you could end up getting glue in the wrong place. Sounds obvious, but I always find it's worth just to mention it just in case. This layer, I should have said, is 8 by 8 centimetres, cut in half. So because they're triangles, rather than a ½ centimetre, we're looking at a centimetre difference. You could go slightly bigger on the white if you wanted to, but that keeps it generally in proportion to the rest of it. And then again for this centre panel, you want a piece that's 8.5 by 8.5. Let's pop that in the middle, like so. Now what we need to do is actually create our panel for the get my teeth in. What I want to do now is create this centre panel, this one that I've done in smoky slate. Actually, that's one I haven't actually grabbed. So actually, do you know what? Because I've got it to hand, I'm going to do it in basic grey. But I can't see my piece of smoky slate that I thought I had. It's always the way, isn't it? Well, no, you wouldn't know. It is often the case when you... Ah, there it is. No, I'm going to go for smoky slate. Whilst I like basic grey, it is really dark. So this piece is 9 centimetres wide, and it's 27 centimetres in length. Now, because I've just noticed that this is a little bit tatty at the one end, so I'm just going to trim off the one and then trim off the other end to take it down to 27. And this is the sort of trickiest bit of the whole card. It's a really straightforward one. All you're going to do is you're going to score, this bit's easy, at 9 and 18 centimetres. I will put measurements on my blog in inches, and they'll also be in the description bar below this video if you're viewing it on YouTube. And then what you want to do, and you can do it in two ways. So I've scored it in this direction. In my sample, I've scored it in the opposite direction. So it's really up to you which way you want to do it. But if you want to make one the way I've done it here, we're going to score on this section from the middle at the top to the bottom right. And from the top left to the middle bottom on the left. Now we really want to bone fold these really well. So in the direction of the score line first, just make sure those are lined up as well. Then back on themselves. And then you'll see it naturally goes together. So same with this one. So back on it with the score line, lining it up before you reinforce it, and then back into the middle. And these are the ones that you just need to really reinforce so that they fold flat. And then it's simply a case of adding those panels onto the front. Easier to do while it's separate, just because you can turn it around a little more easily. And obviously if you wanted to, you could always add some decoration to that basic grey, even smoky slate panel. So you could repeat stamp the leaves maybe, you could add some sentiments, or if this, depending on who it was for, you could even add a photograph to it to make almost like a mini album. Now the last bit that you want to do, you're not going to glue this, you're actually going to add some dimensionals. So decide which way you want your image to be. So I just kind of played around with it to look at how it looked on the front and how it would look when it was sort of open. So I'm going to do it that way. Just flip that down, and that's where I'm going to put my dimensionals. Okay, so we're just going in that corner there. And you'll see I'm just avoiding going near that diagonal line. I don't want to have anything hanging over. So, but just to pop those there. And then again, to line this up, I actually found it easiest to hover over and just make sure I was lining up with those diagonals on the corner there. And then all that remains is to add that to our card. and it's about 2.5 centimetres, so about 1 inch in from each side. So you just want to sort of get that approximately right. So top and bottom, I'm just going to eyeball. Just pop that in place. And then press. And there we have a pair of pretty fun fold cards. Trifold with a difference. Thanks for watching. Come back and see me again soon. If you'd like to purchase any of the products you've seen, please do follow the links in the description bar below this. Go to flutterbyheidi.co.uk. You'll find links to everything I've used. And I'd appreciate it if you would shop with me as a demonstrator if you've enjoyed this project. And whichever way, please hit the subscribe button if you'd like to see more of my projects. Thanks for watching. Bye now.